Good evening, good evening, good evening. Hashtag Tim the Tat Man. I'm just kidding. And if you're in good morning or good afternoon, you're watching this at the wrong time. I'm just kidding. All right. Assassin's Creed Valhalla. These are my first impressions. Welcome to the video. Let's get started. All right, guys, thanks for coming to the video. Today, I'm going to take a look at Assassin's Creed Valhalla. I've played about 11-ish hours of gameplay, even though my stream ran for 13 hours, so I'm not really sure how the game only calculated 11. But anyway, there are some very, very bad things about this game, and there are some very, very good things about this game. Overall, I have to say that there is a very lack on polish for the entire game. I feel like that's something that has been a staple throughout the Assassin's Creed mantra. It's not as clean as it could be. It's not as good as I feel like it could be, but there are some things that I'm very impressed with and this might just be for the fact that I've been away from Assassin's Creed for a while and I'm just returning to a Valhalla, so I want to capture that at first as far as put that spin on what this first impressions is going to come through. But I feel like a lot of people are wondering what's is it viable for 60? Is it really worth it? Should I wait? Should I get it in a bundle? Blah, blah, blah. I'm going to get into each piece of it. No spoilers in this video. I'm not going to talk about storyline. I'm not going to talk about any of that. I'm going to give you an experience of what you're going to play, and I'm going to give you a little bit of what the gameplay kind of feels like. Now, the closest thing that I can get to on a same level comparison would be Ghost of Tsushima, right? So if you've played Ghost of Tsushima, you've basically played the gameplay of this game at least a little bit. If not pretty close to the exact same thing. There are a few tweaks that are an enhancement on Assassin's Creed, but those enhancements also kind of drive away from the full experience, and I'll get into each piece of that in a little bit. So first off, I just want to go in with the very obvious things: graphics and audio. There are some parts of this game that I feel like are beautiful. Like when you're synchronizing on top of a mountain, when you're synchronizing on top of a building, any of that sort of stuff, you see this vast landscape that's very well done, and look at this beautiful mountainside, or look at this beautiful town, or any of that sort of stuff. So when you're on top of a big building, you're looking out amongst the entire world. It's really good, really good. I enjoy looking at each one of those, and it brings a very good side to me. Now, something that I think has plagued Assassin's Creed from, I wouldn't say the get-go, but from a very early time, when they upgraded into basically what I would call 21st century graphics. Now, I know that's not very good or whatever, but latest gen graphics, where you actually be able to convey messages of emotion across from character to character. I've always felt like some of these animations are just a bit lacking. That's not to knock anybody who's making them, but for some reason, the way that the graphics engine displays these motion trackings just sometimes give you awkward looks, sometimes don't convey the emotion that I feel like the character would be. It just doesn't feel polished when you're looking at certain things, and that's just from a very strict standard that I've come to if I wanted a perfect game, I would expect a movie-esque type cutscene every single time, and I'll get into why I don't think that that's capable in being done in this game. So for the most part, I feel like it's passable to get by on your graphics. There are times where audio lines, I don't know if it's the PS4, if the sheer veracity of the game would play better on a PS5 or the next gen consoles, but the PS4 right now has a real hard time of playing the audio and then continuing to play the audio. There are multiple times where I've had audio lines just stop in the middle of playing it, and then all of a sudden pick up later. It processes it, and then all of a sudden picks up after about a second or two. There's these weird pauses in between conversations. There's just a few things that seem a little bit off. Now, as far as when you're playing, when you metal clank, or you hit a shield or break a box or something like that, I haven't had any kind of problems with audio on that. as far as in the gameplay, but in some of the cutscenes, it feels like the processor isn't fast enough to just like be able to continue. It's the weirdest thing I've ever seen or experienced. It just seems like the processing unit just stops. And then it's like, okay, I guess I'll start again. And then it like picks up where it left off. It doesn't even just cut it out. It like scrolls down the lane. So it's like if someone was in the middle of saying Jack jumped over the hill, it would be like Jack jumped over the hill. It was like, what? Anyway, so there's a couple of visual and audio bugs that are a very big detriment to playing the game. Now, moving on from that, gameplay itself. You know, when you're inside of a battle and you're trying to fight with other enemies. When comparing to Ghost of Tsushima, I feel like Ghost was so much more clean and polished with the interactions that you had. When you blocked, when you countered, all of that sort of stuff felt really, really clean inside of Ghost. Now, on the flip side, I don't feel like Ghost, there were a couple of times in certain situations where Ghost made brutal movements or brutal things happen. And I feel like they did a pretty good job, you know, like what I'm talking about is like dismemberment or like, I don't know, crushing people's skulls or something like that. Like there were like some super brutal moments at the time, but there wasn't a wide range of effectiveness. In Assassin's Creed, the cool part is that you can have double-handed weapons, you can have single-handed weapons, you can have axes, you can have hammers, you can have daggers, you can have, like, there's so many different types of weapons. The sheer veracity of just animations inside of those is really cool. Some people have spears, and then you have like this killing thing with the spear in which you do like a certain move or whatever. And so each type of weapon gives you like different animations and different cool, brutal cutscenes that's like super, super cool. And you just experience these by just grabbing different sets. So like playing with a hammer and an axe, or playing with two axes, or playing with two hammers, playing with two daggers, playing with a double-handed axe or a spear, or, you know, so on and so forth. There's so many different weapons that you can actually like get so many different, you know, animations and cool cutscenes and cool death scenes, that it's just like, wow, even though this stuff might not be polished, the sheer amount of content that they're providing is crazy. We're just hitting the top, like the very minimum spot of it. So recapping, graphics have some bugs. Audio has some bugs. Gameplay, not as clean, not as polished. There are times where you feel like when you're doing something like such as blocking or dodging, that you're just doing it for the sake of doing it, and then you quote unquote become invulnerable, in the fact of like you'll see someone throw an axe through your body, but you quote unquote dodged, so it didn't hit you, but it went through your body. So you're kind of like, oh, okay. It brings you out of the immersion of the game. But that aside, so you have a little bit of issue with gameplay, or as far as audio, visual, and then you have a little bit of your gameplay issues where it just doesn't really seem too real. Of course, then you have the issue of, you know, like clipping or doing this certain stuff. There's a couple. I'm not one to try and break in game, but in my playing, I was running into a building that's supposed to close on me, and then I saw something outside, and I was like, oh wait, I don't want to go in there, and so I lunged forward, and then lunged backwards after, you know, recorrecting the direction that I wanted to go because I wanted to get something outside, and the door closed with me on the outside, and so I literally like broke the game. Anyway, so that was a fun moment, which I've never found really. Usually I don't find any bugs, or I don't try to break the limits of the game, but I was able to actually break the limits. It just made me felt like I was some sort of Zelda speedrunner where I was glitching the game in order to try and finish the game in a world record time. But that's beside the point. So moving forward from all of that, what do I find that's really, really good about the game? Number one, I love the open world aspect that gives you opportunity to make all sorts of different type of content. So just in the open world aspect, the prologue of the story, there's like 4 chapters that you're supposed to do. I won't go into story of what's actually happening, but that sheer amount of stuff took me about I would say 7 to 8 hours of gameplay to try and clear the entire island. You might go into somewhere and have to battle somebody, or you might go somewhere and have to battle something, or you have to like go to this spot and watch this person do some sort of crazy skit, or help this person do something weird or crazy. There's like all sorts of different world events that you just like stumble across. They're usually short little things that happen, and they're very interesting to watch. You could, in the fact of moving forward or moving off of that, have to go into some stronghold to get some sort of like treasure or something like that. I mean, there's just thing after thing after thing, and it's spread across a pretty big world. The map makes it look a lot bigger than what it actually is, but at the same time, it does take a while to travel, immense amount of distance. As far as like 1,000 meters really does feel like a true kilometer at different times. It does take a while to get there. But on the map, a kilometer looks very, very much further than, because the size of your indicator is very small compared to what the map size is. Anyway, those are just nitpicky type things. But moving forward, so you have all of these different open world event type things. Then you have the actual main storyline in which they want you to go through and actually do certain things. And so these are just compounding upon compounding. And then we talked about all the animations that had to get developed for all the different weapon types and all the different things. They might just be compounding upon previous games, and I'm just so far removed. I played Assassin's Creed back in like Assassin's Creed 3. And then stopped at 4 with Black Flag. Like, Black Flag was pretty good. I know a lot of people loved it. I wasn't really sold on the whole boat experience, just due to the fact that I really enjoyed jumping off of buildings and hitting people with my hidden blade and that sort of stuff. But they ventured into new stuff, and then they bring the boat mechanic back with Viking longboats. You can raid stuff, like as far as just like come across this little town, and it gives you little indicators like, do you want to raid this spot? And it's like, hell yeah, I want to raid this spot. And then you like go get treasure, and you slice and dice a bunch of people. There's some very, very fun mechanics inside of this. So even with the audio bugs, even with the video bugs, even with the gameplay not being super polished, even with the cutscenes not being super polished, there's a lot to do. Continuing on for first impression, they have these little suggested power sections, and the quote unquote suggested power is basically like these skill points. They have a skill tree system. I don't know exactly when this got implemented or whatever, but I'm playing through it, and I have like 39 power right now. I've seen areas that suggest for 340 or 350 or 360. I can't remember. It's like middle 300s in power. Literally, as you progress your skills, you're getting power. I don't even think that there's much gear involved with your power level technique or your power level stuff. And when you get these skills, these skill points, you upgrade base statistics as far as like range damage, melee damage, stealth damage, any kind of resistance, any kind of health. All of that stuff is literally just compounded upon by each one of your skills, and your skills go up 1 point at a time. So after you get X amount of experience, there's like a little diamond in the top corner that as your experience goes up, you get 2 skill points, and you just keep compounding on that. Well, some areas are suggesting for like 360 suggested power. That just shows me there is a huge grind that is presented in this game, and there's a huge amount of stuff that you will have to do throughout the course of your time playing in order for you to actually like move forward in the game, or be able to go into a new area and actually be able to compete in that area, which is very exciting, especially for the completionist. The completionist has so much that is available for them to do, and we're not even done yet. We're not even done with what is offered or what is talking about. So not only do you have like 360 power that you can get to, which just, you can continue to move up and up and up in power level and actually get stuff moving forward. On top of that, they have like little mini games. There's like this drinking game and this rhyming game and this little dice game. I mean, I hope that when I'm saying no spoilers, I'm not doing anything with the story or anything like that. But they have all these little side games. They have this sheer veracity of amount of stuff. And when you finally, as a Viking, I bet you're kind of wondering like, how does the Assassin's Creed kind of get there? Especially since there's so many roots, and like there's so many roots inside of the fact of like Middle Eastern area, and then it moves to like America, and then when did it get up into Norway, or the Scandinavian? And so you're playing in Norway, but anyway, or some of it. and you eventually move to England. This should be able to be thought through. Anyway, when you get introduced to the Order, and the Order actually becomes a part of like your play, they introduce something that's like this big map of all the different people that you're supposed to fight through. I am not at all close to doing any of it. There's about 30 people or so in this entire map that you're supposed to be able to get or supposed to attack or kill eventually. I've only killed one, and I've gone through the prologue and a little bit of the main story. Like I said, 11 hours of gameplay, and I've barely touched or barely scraped on literally any of it. It is very, very astounding to me, the sheer veracity of content. So if you're wondering whether or not this is worth $60, there will be bugs. There will be a little bit of a drawback on the immersion of the story. Combat is not super smooth, but there is so much offered for you to actually play. If you want to try and do everything that the game offers, there is a ton of amount of stuff to do that will give you so much to do. So I haven't even touched on everything. I can literally think of like 3 more things in my head, and just quickly going over those. You have to, when you get these treasures and stuff from the world, doing around the world stuff, they give you upgrade on the equipment, like the actual base level of the equipment. So it starts off at a gray, and then there's like a bronze, silver, gold, which is actually copper, nickel, and then tungsten. And so you have to get these certain pieces. I, in my 11 hours, haven't even come across nickel, which is like the second tier. I've only been getting copper. So as I go forward, I'm sure as I kill harder and harder enemies, I will get better and better rewards to be able to upgrade my gear, so on and so forth. But on top of that, even though you can get your base requirements up as far as getting from copper to nickel, even with doing those type of tier increases, there is a sub tier increase in which you use like iron ore, leather, fabric, and then there's like a 4th one that will eventually come into play. I haven't even touched fabric or the 4th one. I've just done ore and leather. But you use those to do like a sub tier upgrade, in the fact of like just getting better statistics on your weapon. So like my weapon was a 50 attack, and now it's at a 56, and then it's at a 63, and then it's at a 69, blah, blah, blah. It like goes up by 6s, not on every single one, but on the axes and stuff, I was just noticing that. So there's like upgrading stuff, and then like you can go hunting and you can kill animals, then you can go fishing and you can kill animals there. There's going to be, I'm pretty sure there's assignments and stuff for the guild. I haven't even gotten into any of that. I mean, the list goes on and on with the amount of content that is surely in this game. So if you want a very large game with a lot of content, it's there for you. If you want a polished experience that gives you a really good story, and that has everything, you won't be distracted by graphical glitches or audio glitches, that sort of stuff. You're probably going to want to look somewhere else. But yes, I feel like this game is worth the $60, even with all the tweaks and messes that aren't that great. There is a ton to do. So I can't stress that enough. I can see myself, after playing for 10, 11 hours, I could see myself playing this for months and still not completing everything. So take that as you will. It's super fun. I enjoy it. Like I said, even holding it to the set of standard of Ghost of Tsushima, which I should be having a review of Ghost of Tsushima eventually. Even having it set to that or up against that type of standard, I feel like just the sheer amount of stuff that had to come out of this game, I feel like they did a really good job of making that all come together, even though there are a few things that aren't as polished as they probably should be. So anyway, those are my first impressions. I know it's kind of a longer video. Appreciate you sticking around. I stream all the time. I'm going to be streaming this game a little bit. I will be streaming some Black Ops coming up. So if you want to come over and watch the stream as I play this, or have any questions for me and you want me to expand upon different things, then come over and ask those questions. You can leave a comment down below. I try to respond to every single one, as long as they're more or less positive, or actually genuinely wondering something. But anyway, hope you have a great day. I am out of here. Enjoy all of your time that you have. I'm out of here. Goodbye. Adios. Deuces.